All right, well, good morning, everybody, and welcome back for day 3 of the Global Cleveland Sister Cities Conference 2020. This is our second annual conference, and I've had the pleasure of being involved both years in the conference, and very excited that we were able to make this work again this year, albeit in a COVID world that we're all living in, no matter where we are. So no one's immune from this, unfortunately. Today's topic is the Jesuit education worldwide. Great array of panelists with us today. Before I get into that, though, I'd like to thank our sponsors for the event today. Platform Brewery, the Downtown Cleveland Alliance, Supply Side Group, Ulmer and Byrne Law Firm, the Rotary Club of Cleveland, 12 Literary Arts, Eaton Corporation, Taiwan Sister Cities, CIP USA, Margaret Wong and Associates, Team Neo, the Peace Corps, 12 Literary Arts, and Growth Opportunities. Thank you to all our sponsors once again for being part of this program. Before I start today, I'd like to introduce our panelists today. Again, as I mentioned, we have a wide array of speakers from around the world. When we say Global Cleveland, this is really a global group of panelists we have today. I'll give a quick introduction to each panelist, and then we'll move into our question session. Don't forget, we do have our chat screen on the right-hand side, so anyone in our audience that has questions for the panelists, we'll welcome those questions, and we will get to those when time permits. Our first panelist today is Dr. Michael Lee. Michael Lee is the University Distinguished Professor and Special Advisor to the President, International Affairs at Fu Jen Catholic University, Taipei, Taiwan. Program Director, Dean of the Business School, and VP of International Affairs, and is also the past President of the International Association of Jesuit Business Schools. He obtained his PhD in Operations Research and Industrial Engineering from the University of Texas in Austin in 1993. His current efforts focus on broadening the effort at FJU in the Greater China and Asia Pacific region. Dr. Lee has published close to 100 articles in various journals and several books. His major research areas are data mining, big data analytics, and artificial intelligence, and he has also served as an editorial board for several international renowned journalists. Next up, we get Dr. Phil Metries. Phil Metries has written 10 books, including Shroud, Copper Canyon 2020, Sound Opera, and The Sound of Listening. Awarded the Guggenheim Fellowship and Landship, 3 Arab American Book Awards, and 2 NEAs. He is a professor of English and director of the Peace, Justice, and Human Rights program at John Carroll University here in Cleveland. Jim Brennan is a 1985 graduate of St. Ignatius High School here in Cleveland. He serves at his alma mater as the Theology Department Chair, Director of Irish Studies, and soccer coach, of which he's very good. As a Jesuit school, St. Ignatius alerts students to heed the cries of the poor, the helpless, and the oppressed, prepares students to be respectful of others and of opposing views, and prepares students for subsequent leadership in building the kingdom of God. Father Jiju Vargas, born in 1971, Father Jiju has been a member of the Jesuit order since 1990 and was ordained in 2007. He is currently the principal at St. Xavier's Kathmandu and has been a Jesuit educator for over 20 years. Father Jean-Baptiste Ganza will be joining us shortly. Father Ganza is a Jesuit priest from Rwanda. He is currently the promoter of the Jesuit Education Project in Kigali, also called Kipagabaga Project, and the delegate of the Provincial for Jesuit Secondary Education in Rwanda and Burundi. Axel Yasakada is a 2012 graduate of Colegio de la Inmaculada. He has studies in administration and human resources in Peru and is currently studying law at the same university. That's the University de Peruna de Ciencias Aplicadas. I apologize for any mispronunciations. He volunteers at Colegio de la Inmaculada Pastoral since 2012 an advisor and works at the school since 2017 as activities coordinator. He has an international exchange program, commission, and visits the US once a year with exchange students. And finally, Father Santos Rugel, a Peruvian Jesuit priest and spiritual director in the Inmaculada Jesuit School in Lima, Peru, manager in the Society of Jesus, professor of ethics, organizational behavior, and human resource management in the Pacifico University, professor of human development, ethics and corporate social responsibility, negotiation and conflict management, organizational behavior, and business ethics at Centrum Graduate Business School of the Pontificia Universidad Católica of Peru. I think I got that one.
Católica.
There we go. All right. Maybe if I understand, so be okay. So, well, welcome everyone. And just a quick introduction. My name is Mark Owens, a transplant from Northern Ireland just over 20 years ago. I'm proud to say I came to Cleveland based on a Jesuit education at John Carroll University here in Cleveland. That was the reason I came to the US, and I'm very happy to say if it wasn't for my education at John Carroll, I would never have stayed here in Cleveland. I would have went home. So it really, my success in Cleveland over the 20 years started with a Jesuit education here in Cleveland, Ohio, of which I'm very proud and very excited to chair this panel today. So again, welcome everyone. Again, to the audience, we have a Q&A on the right-hand side. If you have questions, feel free to put those in there. We'll be moderating those. And we've got some questions here for the panelists, and we'll get right into it if everything's okay with that. Everyone's good? Thumbs up from everyone?
Yeah.
All right, good. All right. So I'm going to start with Dr. Michael Lee. You're going to be our first question today. And
okay.
You know, as I look at the room today, and given the very diverse and wide geographic locations of each of you today, how does the Jesuit education function and teach in a non-Christian environment where the majority of your people come from different religious backgrounds? And we'll start with Michael on that one.
Okay. Well, I think, you know, relatively speaking, it's challenging, but there are also, you know, lots of rooms for improvement. In the Greater China region, you know, we are the only Jesuit university and also the only Catholic university under the direct supervision of the Vatican City. Let me give you a little bit background of the university. The university was founded in 1925 in Beijing by a Jesuit and a lay person. Definitely, you know, during that period of time, it was a high reputed university in China, enjoyed very high reputation. But after 1949, the communists took over China, you know, the university was shut down. We reopened here in Taipei in 1962 because of our high reputation over there in China. Since our founding in 1925, after we tried to reopen the universities here, we got great support from the alumni all over the world, and also got great support from the local governments. Because of the high reputation, so we don't have too much difficulty, you know, trying to build our reputation. But I believe the most important factor is that, you know, we work with the local church, we work with the government, we work with the NGOs, and also I believe the fathers and sisters teaching on campus really have a very important, you know, a factor, that because they are role models to all the students, and all the students get quality education here on campus. So even though, you know, majority of students are non-Catholic, non-Christian, relatively speaking, you know, the Catholic Christian population on campus is only like between 15 to 20%. But I believe most people, they enjoy the education here. They treasure the value of Jesuit education, and they even after they graduate, they believe, they have a huge impact while they were on campus. So I think, even though, the vast majority of students are non-Catholic, non-Christian, but because of our good reputation, because of the Jesuits work really hard on campus, they become the role model of the students and alumni. So I think, the Jesuits have so far done a pretty good job, in maintaining the identity, even though the Jesuit population, the Jesuits on campus, the numbers are declining, but I think we are still doing okay. Right now, the alumni like us who are teaching on campus, we have, take over the baton and try to, hang in there and make sure that we deliver the high quality education. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Next question for that on Dr. Phil, if you'd like to go ahead with that.
The same question, right? Dealing with sort of being an Jesuit.
Same question.
So John Carroll University is obviously serves the entire student body, and that includes not only Catholics, of course, but all manner of people of other faiths and of no faith. And I mean, one of the most essential elements to me of a Jesuit education is its ethical engagement with how we speak with, how we engage with people who are unlike ourselves. There's this wonderful chart of sort of what the models or the foundations are for a Jesuit education, and they are, they're the things that you would hope we would have at every school, right? How do we learn to serve as responsible members of a society concerned for and united with those who suffer injustices? So how do we not only treat the stranger, but how do we act in solidarity with people whose lives are difficult or have experienced oppression, injustice, inequality? So as an institution, obviously, that's the way you want to be facing. You want to be facing not only your own community, but how do you create a welcome, a situation of great welcome for others? And I think that that's really at the center of what we're trying to do at John Carroll is really create a situation where John Carroll students are experiencing their education as not simply an education in pre-professional training, but also an education in discernment, an education in learning to be connected with and be in solidarity with others, learning to reflect, learning to have discernment and a spiritual process of growth. So the nutshell is that if we're going to live out our mission, that means that we're going to serve everyone, and that we will often speak institutionally from a space of our core values, but those core values are always attempting to include, attempting to create more justice and fairness in our world. So, I run a program called the Peace, Justice, and Human Rights Program, and so I'm constantly thinking about this particular issue, like, are people being included and excluded? And institutionally, we do that through a number of different ways. Obviously, we have this wonderful organization called the Center for Student Diversity and Inclusion. It's constantly thinking about how do we reach out to people who might not feel that they are actually part of the community? How can we serve their needs as well? My program is trying to do the same thing on the level of education. So institutionally, this is a deeply important question for us. How can we live out our values in a way that shares our values, but also is welcoming to others?
Thank you, Dr. Phil. Really appreciate it. Mr. Brennan, Jim, if you'd like to go next.
Yeah, sure. It's my situation is a little different. The number of students who are Catholic is we're in the high 80s percentage wise and all that. So our struggle has been, because it is overwhelmingly Catholic, to make sure that our boys who come here who are not of the Catholic faith know that it, just like as Phil said, to know that they belong here and that they're welcome here, and that their insights, their faith tradition is something that we want to hear about. And what we try to do is try to find links between I'm teaching theology and links between let's say Christianity or more directly or more specifically Catholicism and their traditions as well, and to give them an opportunity to explore a little bit of where they're coming from and their own faith tradition, and again find those points of contact with the Catholic faith, and then that also having our boys who are Catholic to try to find points of contact with other religious traditions as well. A big part of what we're concerned about here as well is promoting Catholic social teaching, and so. That idea, as Phil said, with being concerned about service and justice, is terribly important here as well. And of course, that these are universal calls, right? So to be able to find that with our kids is a priority, but also an opportunity for kids to be able to talk to each other and talk to teachers and learn more deeply about where they're coming from. So.
Okay, appreciate that. And we will go next to Father Jiju. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I apologize if I'm butchering it. You might be on mute.
There I go. All right. Perhaps I come from a largely non-Christian background because hardly about 1% of our students are Catholics or Christians. Everyone else coming from different faiths. And that's the situation of Nepal. If you put Nepal altogether, there are only just about 8,000 Catholics out of the 29 million people. So we work in a pretty much non-Christian. There are a few things that we do without fail in our institute, in our schools and colleges in Nepal. First and foremost, the underlying principle of our presence here is that we are here for the personal transformation of students, which is the Jesuit education. And therefore, based on that, there are a few things that we do. For example, when we start an academic session, when we take in a new batch, we ensure that we have a meeting with the students, the new students and their parents. They all come to the college or the school, and we have that part. And there we tell them who we are as Jesuits, who they are as members of a Jesuit institution. That is the first thing that we do. Number two, we also tell them what is it that is expected of them as members of a Jesuit institute. So in this, we ensure that they understand the whole the philosophy behind Jesuit education. We
I think we lost Father Jiju.
Probably the Wi-Fi environment is gone. Yeah.
We'll give him. I'll do like a 10-second countdown, and if not, and Father Ganza's not here yet, right? So, Axel, you're on the clock, so you got 5 seconds to start getting an answer ready. We'll see if he jumps back on here. I'll tell you what, let's just move along. Axel, we'll move to you, and we can always follow back up with Father Jiju in a few minutes if and when he joins us again. Is that okay?
Okay, thank you, Mark. Well, our context is a little different. Where we come here in Peru, most people is Catholic, and most of the families that come to our school, the Inmaculada school, to educate their children are Catholic, right? But we think it is important that we as a Jesuit institution, as Catholics, teach about tolerance and accepting the other ones, right? So, for example, in our religious education classes, it's not only about teaching about Catholic faith and Catholic tradition, but also to teach about other religions, other creeds, and their cultural and historical background. Another point I could say about this is when our students do community service, we do it not only with the Catholic population in need, but with anyone in need, because it is about caring and connecting with the others, no matter their religion or their background or where they live or what their beliefs are.
Thank you, Axel. Appreciate it. I see we got Father Jiju back, and
I'm back. Yes.
that's okay.
Do I continue or do I continue?
If you want to finish off, yeah, that'd be great. Absolutely, yeah, we're love to hear more.
Oh, okay. All right. So we have these. I was talking to you about this orientation that we have with parents and the students for every new intake of students and their parents. The second thing that we insist on students to do is to go through a rural immersion camps, which means every student who goes through our college has to go for an overnight or 2 nights camp in a rural setup where they interact with the villagers, they interact with the people there, they learn what is leadership skills, they learn how to get a different perspective on life, and to learn to see how they can make a difference in the lives of the others. The third thing that we do in the area of formation and transformation is value education classes, where we teach them how to choose what is right instead of what is popular, and to learn to respect oneself, others, and the creation. And another important thing that we do is either the principal or the vice principal meets with the students on a regular basis. Some students weekly, some students once in a month, once in a conference, where we impart to them different perspectives on life. We tell them stories, we tell them anecdotes from various sources, whereby we give them what is known as food for thought, food for life. And keeping these kind of things going on a regular basis allows us to impart Jesuit values and impart the kind of education that we aspire, we want them to get in terms of their transformation, personal transformation. So these are some of the things that we do. You may be surprised to hear that we have novena for Saint Ignatius, in our college. And it is conducted by students from other faiths. We have adapted the values lived by Saint Ignatius into the Nepali context, and we present them for the students to reflect on. So there we go.
Well, thank you for that. I wrote down there right away: food for thought, food for life, living the Jesuit values. I thought that was very, very good. Thank you. And finally, the same question to Father Santos. If you want to have a go at this one.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, as Axel said, we have in Peru 1,400 students from pre-K to high school. The majority of our students and families are Catholics. And as a Jesuit school, the Colegio de la Inmaculada in Lima is committed to forming a global perspective within its students. So we are very interested to forming men and women for and with others, especially academic, social justice, cultural immersion. So Jesuit education seeks to form men and women for others, especially to try to develop gifts for the community, stress on community values. Jesuit education in our schools provides adequate pastoral care, for example, on religious faith and religious commitment. The spiritual exercise responds to a personal call from God. So Jesuit education insists on individual care and concern for each person. We have a special program, development stage of growth, curriculum centered on the personal relationships, cura personalis, responsibilities within the community, within each person. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Santos, and thank you all for that first round of questions. Next up, the next question I want to cover is, and this one, if I'm going to start with Mr. Brennan on this one. I know some of the things he's been involved with regarding global studies, and kind of what has the contribution been. And I've heard a lot today about global students and the global Jesuit community. What is the contribution of Jesuit schools to global education that you've seen in your experience, Mr. Brennan?
Thanks. I appreciate it, Mark. I'm going to try this. I'm an absolute Luddite here, so I may blow up the whole thing, but I'm going to try to share a screen here. And it is not working. So, okay, we'll run away from that. No worries. Maybe as a way of kind of setting the conversation here, there is in our dining hall this enormous map of the world. And on it are all the nations and the Jesuit school network, the global Jesuit school network. And every day when our boys go to get their lunch or to hang out during a free period, they see this map and they're reminded every day that they are part of something bigger than themselves, right? That they are part of a network of Jesuit schools on every continent, I think except Antarctica. They are part of something that is bigger than St. Ignatius High School, bigger than the city of Cleveland, bigger than the United States. And I think it's significant that these schools are on a map of the world. And so it's bigger than even being part of a Jesuit school network. And so in subtle and not so subtle ways, they're reminded of that, right? That like Pericles, they are citizens of the world. That our boys are involved in Jesuit schools. That one of the things we notice, I used to be moderator of a club around here. It was the Junior Council on World Affairs, and the boys being involved in Model United Nations organizations, and so going throughout the country and representing countries other than our own, and from the perspective of those countries and the concerns of those countries, and having to learn something about the political aspirations and economic aspirations and social aspirations of various peoples. And one of the places they go is Georgetown University, or have the opportunity to do that. And Georgetown, another Jesuit school, really has tried to leverage where they're at in Washington to enable students, whether they're Jesuit students or students from other schools, to be able to visit embassies and to get to know people in that way. And that seems to be kind of the mentality of Jesuit education. It's always outward looking. And I think that's terribly important to understand. And I think it goes back to just the charism of the society. While people may debate, I don't, but we may debate the idea of missionary work. One of the great heroes of Jesuit missionaries is Matteo Ricci, and Matteo Ricci came from Europe and went to China to spread the Christian message there. And in China at the time, there had been a Christian community of people, of Chinese people, but that community looked and acted incredibly European. Ricci would have none of that. Before he arrived in China, he learned the language, he learned the philosophy, and so he learned the culture before he showed up. He dressed as the people who were there. He engaged in dialogue on subjects about astronomy and philosophy, and really respected the culture that he went into. He had something to share, but he also wanted to make sure that everyone knew that he was not going to try to change the culture, but rather, as I mentioned in my previous answer, where are the touchstones? Where can we come together in that? And that seems to be, when it comes to global studies and this kind of reaching out to other people, this idea of respecting where people are coming from, right? And what can we learn from the cultures that we encounter? America, I think, is oftentimes, and Americans are oftentimes criticized, and I think justly, for this idea of cultural imperialism, right? We're going to come in, we know better than everyone else, and we don't. And I think the Jesuits remind us of that. Mark, because one of the things that I have an opportunity to do is to take my students to Ireland and to talk about the peace process in the north of Ireland. And in being there, kind of learning from police, and there have been concerns about policing in that part of the world, and we have problems and concerns about policing here in the United States. And what can we learn from Ireland? What can we learn from people being in a political context where it's highly contentious? And so it's going in, respecting and trying to learn from the people that we get to visit. Related to that, I think, and this is another hallmark of a Jesuit approach to global studies, is relationships, right? Trying to build relationships with people, that you can know about a culture or you can know a culture, and to recognize that cultures are made up of people. And so to enter into to build friendships and try to do that is terribly important. Here at our school, and we are not alone in this, we will exchange with students from other parts of the world. And so in my time here, we've had students from Hungary come to the United States, and Spain and France and Tanzania, and our boys going there and spending time and living with families and having their counterparts, their fellow students from these other parts of the world coming and staying with us, and being able to have these conversations that you wouldn't have if you're living in a hotel and going to the tourist spots and doing all of that. And the beauty of these conversations is, after a while, when you know, especially if our kids are interacting with kids from other Jesuit schools, is they've got a common language, they've got common experiences, even if there are certainly differences that are there. But those conversations can be honest, and I think our boys have had a situation where their eyes have been opened in ways that perhaps they wouldn't have been otherwise in this kind of world of confirmation bias and all of that. We've had an opportunity to have Jesuits who come and visit with us and spend time and having honest conversations with kids. Jesuits, when they're in formation, go to different parts of the world and live in different parts of the world. And so I think when students perhaps have a biased perspective, that they are then challenged by people who say, no, actually, I've lived there, and what you're thinking is wrong. So I think that's kind of a key thing in all of this as well. So the idea of respecting and learning from the cultures we encounter, and building relationships. And while certainly other programs will be doing this, this is absolutely characteristic, I think, of Jesuit education globally.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. And I would love to get a copy of that picture, and we'll try and share that with the panelists as well. I've personally seen it. It's amazing to see the global scale of things on there. So we'll try and get a copy of that sent to everyone as well. I'm thinking, Axel, we had mentioned in your bio, once a year you bring a group of international students or exchange students abroad. If you maybe want to touch on that question a little bit and give your perspective on that question.
Yes, thank you, Mark. We want to help our students become free citizens, believers, creative, critical, and autonomous with Ignatian values, who are also able to support the needs of the others in society, especially the most vulnerable. We intend that those who graduate from our school are global ethical citizens who carry out their mission of being faithful and promote justice from Christian values. That's why in year 2014, we started our student exchange program, in which we sent a group of students from our school to Jesuit schools in Cleveland, St. Ignatius, Cincinnati, Dallas, and New Jersey during January and February. And then we received students from those Jesuit high schools during their summertime. I traveled with Inmaculada students to the US, and I received US students at Inmaculada. And they live an experience that enriches students of both Jesuit schools from US and Peru, that change them into citizens of the world by reinforcing their Ignatian identity through formative experiences in accordance with the education of the Jesuits in different cultural contexts. For instance, when visiting Lima, the US students are hosted by our school's families and attend some of the regular classes their host brothers, as we call it, attend. But in addition, we schedule special activities to provide a glance of the experience that our students live during their 12 years they spent in our school, and some other activities to ensure cultural immersion. When US students arrive to the Inmaculada, we take them on a tour of our school to know what we do, our project. We have a wastewater treatment plant and a wildlife preservation project. But also, we prepare dedicated classes and visits to museums where they learn about Peruvian art, music, history, culture in general. But probably one of the most important activities both U.S. exchange students and Peru exchange students do when they visit us is community service. Our pastoral department takes students to visit our neighboring district of San Juan de Miraflores here in Lima, right next to our school, where they meet with children from Fe Alegría schools, and they can see firsthand the difficulties of the poverty in Latin America. This way, we can contribute to them becoming global ethical citizens who carry out their mission of being faithful and promote justice from Christian values.
Thank you, Axel. Michael Lee, obviously, some of your past experience as past president of the International Affairs Program at your college, and I'm sure you've run into this and had some experience with the global education, global studies. Wanted to get your feedback on that.
Yeah, like the previous panels has mentioned, the Jesuit education, tries, one of the key aspects is to try to build students' international vision. I just try to share with the International Association of Jesuit Business Network really plays a very important role in making this happen. I just want to share with you one of my personal stories. I became business school in 2009, and at the same year we launched the first tri-continent program in the world, if I don't make a mistake. The first tri-continent entrepreneurship management program in the world, through the connection of 3 Jesuit business schools. First one is IQS in Barcelona, Spain. The second one, of course, is our business school in Taipei. And the last one is the business school at University of San Francisco. So through this very unique and innovative program, we recruit students from all parts of the world. On the average, every year, we have about 45 to 50 from at least 15 countries. And during the 1 year period, the students spend 4 months on each campus. And during their study in each campus, they got tremendous amount of opportunities to visit, different parts of the world. Like in Barcelona, they get the opportunity to visit lots of companies in Spain, of Europe. And when they were in Taipei, they got the opportunity to visit lots of companies in Taiwan as well as in China. They were in San Francisco. They will be having lots of opportunities to visit startup companies in Silicon Valley. So through the joint efforts and Jesuit tradition collaboration, we share the same tradition, we share the same identity. So students benefit a lot. It has been operation for 11 years. We have close to 500 alums. They were all very happy about the quality education they have, the very unique international learning globe. And if I do not make a mistake, the most recent published Financial Times ranking in the international management category, the program ranks number 19 in the world, the highest for all the universities in Taiwan. So I think that's a very good model, for Jesuit schools to work together for the benefits of students, of our faculty, and for our society. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. I'm going to switch direction here a little bit. And at any time anyone wants to input into a question, maybe they didn't get a chance to answer, feel free. We do have a question from the audience. Terry Smigala is in the audience today with us. I'll throw this one out to the panelists if someone wants to volunteer to go first. And Terry's question is, the Jesuits are famously international in their outlook. Instilling a worldview is a hallmark of the Jesuit education. but the world seems to be going through a phase of populism and nationalism. Has this trend impacted your work or presented any challenges? So I'd like to open that one up. This is a question from our audience. And if somebody wants to volunteer to go first on that one, we can take it from there. Don't all volunteer at once.
Mark,
it's a really wonderful question because... Sure, Michael, go ahead.
No, Phil, you go ahead. Phil, you go first. I'll go later.
Okay, sure, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that the questioner is exactly right. We're engaging a sort of response to globalization as it occurred, over the past 20, 30, 40 years. And on the one hand, we could say that Jesuit education and Jesuit and Catholic values are ones that perceive the inherent dignity of each person, the inherent dignity of cultures and respect for other cultures and difference. So you could say that, there's an internationalist kind of view as my colleagues have sort of laid out here. But that's not to say that there isn't also respect for, the ways in which societies organize themselves and have their own different ways of approaching their realities. But I think that we're all living through a moment in which there's a blowback to the negative sides of globalization, particularly the ways in which economic realities have changed for people and the ways in which political power has diminished for masses of people. And so something that's happened in other countries in the world is now happening in Europe and the United States and other countries. And so there's this anxiety that has arisen. And I think that in a way, what I feel called to do is to go back to our core values, which is to say that everybody has fundamental dignity and everybody should have the right to be able to figure out how to relate and respond to others, but to remember our particular responsibility to those who are marginalized, who are oppressed, who are weak, who are being excluded from these conversations. And so in a way, it's an opportunity for us to continue to teach what our foundational values are in our foundational perspective.
Okay, Mark, let me have some response to this question. I believe, in terms of, it's having some kind of impact, not only to our university, but also to the country, because Taiwan is so close to China. And China, I believe you should all agree with me. China right now is in a certain way that probably have some kind of United States. So Taiwan, because it's a position, it's a economic development model, kind of having a trouble right now because the people in Taiwan right now are very divided. Some say that we should probably try to have a closer relationship with the US, but quite a few people are thinking probably exactly the opposite way, saying that we should have a closer tie with China. I already figured that out, maybe through some news media or whatever. So excuse me. Sorry, so
you need to sing along with the music.
Because somebody called in, I believe I ring off the phone, it's really strange, So because the people are so divided, so no matter countrywide or even university-wide, the students, the staff members, and the faculty members, are so divided. And so it becomes a challenging issue, for us, especially some faculty members, and some students, they tend to, behave in a probably good manner, when the other side of people are trying to presenting their ideas. So if they disagree with some of the other parts, opinions, they will have a very strong reaction, and sometimes, kind of conflict on campus, and probably some other parts of the country, on the island. So I think that really has a huge impact, in the in the university, in the society here. But I'm quite agree with Philip. We just have to probably look back and look at the value of Jesuit education, and try to insist that there is something we should all have a common value, that respect people, and so that's the current situation here in Taiwan. That's something I have to share with you. Yes.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. And Terry, that was a great question. Got a lot of great conversation going there. Just in the interest of time, I know we just passed the 15-minute left mark on the call today, just to keep everyone in check. We're going to move on to the next question. Father Santos, we're going to start with you on this one. How do you relate, and in what way do the universal apostolic preferences play a role in your role as a Jesuit educator?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Yeah, so Father General Arturo Sosa notes that the preference gives an horizon, a point of reference to the whole society of Jesus, because the preference captures our imaginations and awaken our desires. For example, the first preference, showing the way to God through the spiritual exercise and the practice of discernment. So we offer in our school spiritual exercise for our students and their families. So we try to promote discernment as a regular basis, as a regular practice in our school. So regular use of spiritual conversations, the cura personalis. So years ago, we have many Jesuits in our school. Now, only we are 3 Jesuits who works 2 full-times and 1 part-time, but we try to have the spiritual directions with our students. The second preference, working with the poor. So here is important the community service with poor people. We have some experience, community service, social work with in poor places in Lima, Peru. So the third preference is working together with young people. We contribute in important ways to creating and maintaining open spaces for our students. And the last preference, working together to care for the earth, our common home. So we try to create new habits. Our students have to change their habits. Our students have to care our home. So for that reasons, we started a couple of years ago a global perspective with our students, especially with Cleveland. This year, we expected to receive 5 students from St. Ignatius and 5 girls from St. Joseph Academy. But for the pandemic situation, it was not possible, right? Because our interest is to provide opportunity for our students to take learning outside our country, reinforce the Ignatian identity through formative experiences, according with the education of the Society of Jesus, serve the poor and marginalized, understands more fully the diverse cultures of the world. Thank you.
Father Jiju, would you like to answer that one? You're on mute. Can't. Yeah.
I get so confused. Anyway,
That's
all right.
Okay.
ever since his UAP, the Universal Apostolic Preferences, were promulgated, we have brought them into our way of functioning in the college. The first thing that we do is to form a theme for the academic year. We form a theme for the academic year based on one of these preferences. And therefore, all the programs that we conduct throughout the academic year is somehow or other guided by and oriented towards one or the other apostolic preferences. Talking about the four of them in particular, number one, promoting leading people to God. So we begin all our programs with a prayer, and every day before the classes, students have to spend a few minutes in prayer. The prayer it could be a Christian hymn, it could be a Hindu hymn, it could be a general hymn, but that is how we begin our day. And when we look at the second preference, caring for the marginalized, the poor, we try to be as inclusive as possible in our admission policies. So for us, our college is a mini Nepal. You come to Nepal, come to our college, you will find students from all types of background, from all over Nepal. Not deny admission to anyone because of their, let's say, financial reasons or for any reasons. If we come to know a student is qualified to get admitted in our college, we take them in. The third part, lead people, guiding youth. The third apostolic preference. We have regular counseling programs. Our teachers are trained in mentoring, and we ensure that students are given motivational programs and workshops on a regular basis, so that they get to know what they are capable of, helping them to become the best person that they are capable of becoming. And finally, caring for our common home. That is a very important issue for us in Nepal at present, because we are definitely gifted with natural beauty so much, but unfortunately a city like Kathmandu is very highly polluted now. So our students are very much aware about the consequences of climate change, global warming, and they have eco clubs, environmental clubs, other activities that they conduct every now and then, whereby they are very much connected to these four apostolic preferences that we have been given by the Society of Jesus. But having said all these things, I think there is a lot more to do, and it is an orientation that we have to take up points. They are all pointers towards higher goals, and we look forward to implementing them, putting them into practice in our lives in a better way in the future.
Thank you, Jiju. Again, just respectful of everyone's time today. I know everyone's committed to being here this morning. I don't want to take away from that. We have a left. I know we had some other questions prepared, but what I'd like to do is maybe take this opportunity just for open forum. And Dr. Phil, thank you very much. Dr. Phil has posted some great links in the chat room to some documents that are going to be very helpful. They will be available afterwards as well for those that maybe haven't had a chance to save those links. Maybe Dr. Phil, maybe just on that note, if you maybe make speak to those documents that the links you've sent, and just again for the next 4 or 5 minutes, if anyone else has anything else they'd like to add, and then I'd like to summarize a little bit of our call today and close out from there. So, Dr. Phil, if you'd like to go ahead on that.
Thanks so much, Mark. I would just want to say that when I read these apostolic preferences, this document, it filled me with such great hope and gratitude, because it reflected so much the practices that I feel like are central to what I'm trying to do at my university and central to the Jesuit mission. And so I honestly read it with such delight and such happiness. They seem to be issues of such deep and present concern, and also abiding long-term values that we share. So, I know there are people maybe listening to this panel who may have some skepticism about the church or about Jesuit tradition or Jesuit education, but insofar as we're living out these apostolic preferences and teaching our students to care for their own spiritual discernment, to care for and to walk with and abide with the poor, to imagine and create a hope-filled future through our development of students of character and of justice and of service and spirituality, and to care for our common home. Like it just fills me with great hope and gratitude, and I feel very connected to this mission. And so that's all I would want to say about it.
Thank you, Dr. Phil. And I think especially in these days, in the COVID world that we're living in, no matter where we are, some of the things you just mentioned, it all rings true in treating people that way right now. So anyone else have anything to add or anything you'd like to say before we start closing out? Okay, that's good. I don't want to force anyone. Hey, well, listen. What I wanted to do, I've been taking notes here, and I'm not the greatest note taker in the world, as people may know. But some things that really rang true in this panel today was really, there's a few things you guys have mentioned. The value of the Jesuit education. I mean, I for one, had a Jesuit education through John Carroll, and even the Catholic boys' school I attended in Ireland. Very, very similar in how the education was, but it's an education the students take with them. I think you guys are all very clear that when you're teaching your students and educating them, whether it's for 1 year or 7 years, they take that education with them and take those Jesuit values with them as well. There was I think Dr. Phil, you may have said this, if we live out our mission, we will serve everyone. I think that's, again, today's world, the way things are going, if we live out our mission and help people and be there for people, regardless of their religion, of their beliefs, we can serve everyone. That serves very true. I've heard the word inclusive a lot today. And, some of you mentioned that some of your students may not be Catholic or of Jesuit background, but they're included in your education. Their parents are included. The Jesuit population does not discriminate. It welcomes everyone. It's very, very inclusive. Food for thought, food for life, the Jesuit values are so true. And ultimately, the last thing I had down here was by living the Jesuit mission, teaching the Jesuit mission, the students ultimately benefit. And again, I started with saying they take it with them. They really do. And I think you can all see that in your students as you meet them years later and see they're living out the education they were taught and teaching it to others. So it's great today, the consistency and some of the answers and how it all connects together. And I really do appreciate you guys making time today. I know you're all busy. And, this is a very important conference to us in Cleveland. So on behalf of Global Cleveland and our host committee and the team at Global Cleveland, we'd like to thank you again for making time today, being part of this panel. Thank you to those in the audience, I guess, that were chatting and talking and asking questions. We look forward to continuing this relationship. Hopefully, in the future, we can do this in person and not just virtual, although this has worked very, very well. But here's time we can get back to meeting in person, having these conversations around the table, maybe with a face mask, whichever. And we'll kind of go from there. So again, thank you, everyone. I hope you got as much out of this as I did. I know I got a lot of this. Was very enlightening, very refreshing. Great way to start a day. And thank you again.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, guys.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Mike.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. See you.
Bye.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.